Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the man cave of madness in the middle of the evening. And this is a segment of Collector's Corner. In particular, we are looking at Blue Panther games you do not know about, most likely. Many of you know Blue Panther as the print-on-demand company behind Hollandspiele games and White Dog games and Catastrophe games and the Historical Game Company and others. Plus, they started publishing some of their titles themselves, including Herman Luttman's Zorn, Land and Freedom, other titles, etc. Now, many of you do not realize that they used to publish games themselves long before they were doing the games from Hollandspiele and Schütze games and White Dog games, etc. Now, we even have here some games that Steve Jones himself designed, and we're going to start there. Okay, so one of the things that Steve specialized in was wooden games. His laser etched, laser cut was his thing. So this is by Nestor Romaral Andres, a Blue Panther game, and this was from 2007. This is the oldest one I believe that I have of theirs. So in this case, sometimes everything's in all wood, and occasionally there'll be stickers and things. If you need, more printing, better printing, you a little more legible. There's a certain degree to which the etched laser's okay. But so here's an example of a game. Taiji, nice, simple rules. It's a 2-piece 9x9 grid board that sort of a jigsaw puzzle goes together. And here's all the pieces. They're kind of the reddish brown on one side, and then the two-color, natural wood color and the red on the other. And those are placed on the board as you're trying to, two-player game, trying to form the longest contiguous grouping of the color of the player by the time no more moves can be played, because there's certain rules of how these guys can be. Now, first time I saw this reminded me of the capsule pills in the, Dr. Mario, I think it was, where it's flipping pills onto the screen and you rotate them, so it's like a combination of a Tetris and Mario themed game. That's what they reminded me of. But so simple sort of strategy game of spatial reasoning, putting things and trying to get the longest path. So that's an example. I'm not going to totally put this back together there. I tend to put in certain games internal padding to keep things from rattling around too much. So now let's look at the second game from Stephen Jones himself, and that one's about ready to fall over. Actually, there's three, because this is one here too. Stay. All right, so Nepal. Let's see if I was right. Yes, by Steve Jones. All right. Now, this also comes in a pure wood version. This is a cheap white box, much like that you might have baseball cards in, or maybe store Magic the Gathering cards in a sleeve, but there is a wooden box version of this. The components inside. Now, unfortunately, it's a very tiny print, and it kind of uses a font that makes it hard to read. In that very tiny print on this, it's kind of like beige, tan, ecru paper. So I recommend not doing that, dear game publishers, but here is, now I have not actually played this one because the cards are still in shrink. You have a scoring board, that's in wood, of course, etched. Then this is a 4-piece jigsaw puzzle board, but it's coated. It's got his artwork. So like this would be here, and this one would be here, and then obviously the other one would be up there. So it's depicting the country of Nepal and the various provinces and such. And there's a sort of a blowout for where Kathmandu is, which is the capital of Nepal. And then this particular game has tons of painted little cubes. Tons. All right. So that's an example of another early. This was, I think, 2010, 2009, Blue Panther, made in USA. So all of these games from Blue Panther are manufactured in the United States. That's very important to know these days. I'm in the process of acquiring some more of these old Blue Panther games, and I'm ordering one from Great Britain, and the fact that, I actually don't have to worry about the tariff, because remember, the country of origin that's mattered. So the country of origin is the manufacturer. It's not a Chinese game, it's a US game, so importing that from the UK into the US, no tariff, because I'm actually importing a USA good. So that's something to take note of. Okay, I'm going to throw these in here real quick. Not packing up perfectly. Let's set that aside. All right. At the end, I'll have games falling all over the place. So let's grab this one next. It's closest. I didn't memorize the exact order of this. I was going to do sort of oldest to newest, but 2011. Now, what's interesting about this game, okay, this one is by David Witcher. What you see here is both a box and a dice tower. You pull this part out here, and it goes in easier than it comes out. It's a little tight. All right, there's some dice. They're wooden dice, colors and symbols. And there's all these little components. These pieces here, okay, you put them in the sides. You're forming a dice tower here. All right, so that's totally optional, but yeah, you get a free dice tower, and the game is these cards, which have, this has also not been played yet. There's multiple symbols, and there's these. You start with a tile on the board, and each turn a player draws a new card and puts it down so that two edges are adjacent, and then they roll the dice, and if the pair of symbols, oops, you can't see that there, I'm going to tilt down. The pair of symbols appears somewhere in the playing field. So it could either be, here's a bomb, but there's no 4 diamonds next to it. But maybe there's another tile over here with 4 diamonds. Okay, so on your turn, you roll, and there's a time limit, and if you touch, the 2 things, you can claim it. Now, other people can also, if there could be potentially more than one combination of what's rolled, and multiple people can grab them. If for example there was 4 diamonds here and 4 diamonds here, one person said, well, there's a combo. One person said, there's a combo. This square could not be claimed because both guys are pointing at this one. So anyway, that's going into too much detail on this little game, obviously, here. I just thought it was sort of an interesting thing for a game inside a dice tower. The box, and again, I need to... There we go. So we'll demonstrate how relatively easy it all goes back in there. And of course, you'd have to have the rules. So that's all the components. And then when I go and I stick this back on, it slides on way easier than it came back off. So there you go. Little game. This was relatively cheap too. Can't remember how much, but it was like less than $10. All right. So let's go to this one next, the one that almost fell over earlier. This is the last of the Steve Jones. Now, he may have done more. Again, like I said, I have a couple, I think, that are buried over the man cave somewhere, and I have a couple more on order. So we will see. But this one, Duck, Duck, Boom. So this is a wooden box where, you know, this fits in there, but it doesn't, like, latch on or anything. So that's why I still use the plasti bands to hold things in place. You have wooden cards, basically. They're like card tiles, and they have the art on like a sticker surface. I don't think it's actually, I think it's laminated on. Now, I believe there is the first version of this actually had the laser engraved cards. So, for example, this one, Super Duck, he's all laser engraved. The dice are laser engraved. Okay, but I do believe that the first version had all laser engraving. That is what I believe. All right, that doesn't quite fit in there, but all right. So we're not gonna go into more on the play of this one. So there we go. Sitting that aside. All right, so next, I'm going to tilt this back up here for you in a second here. So you can see the ones coming. Let's go to this one. So this is in your more traditional box. All right. This is by Norv and Brad Brooks. This one was 2012. So you can see there's a fair amount of components in there. 2 to 4 players, ages 10 up, 16 to 90 minutes. Aloha, the Spirit of Hawaii. So this is, I'm going to tilt this down a little bit. So it says here on the side of the box, guide your people from migration to statehood in this strategy game of area control resource management. Okay. So you're trying to make Hawaii a state. Okay, so this has a more traditional folded, stapled in the middle rule book with color. All right, scoring. Now, this isn't super easy to read, and I'm going to show you something that's even harder to read in a second here. But there's lots of card decks here. There's 3 different chapters, so it's like historical periods, the development, prologue period, and I think there's also like leaders and some other stuff in here. Okay, here is the same sort of scoring card. This is even harder to read because of the darker saturation of the color, and this is kind of like a textured paper, and it becomes very hard to read this white on dark, and it's kind of like a cursive style, half italics, half cursive style one. So I find this very difficult to read. Here, the black on the contrast is good enough. You can read that relatively well, but still, a larger, they could fit in a larger font here, and less saturated. You need more contrast. Scoring, different tracks. Now, so part of these are going to come out. Well, I'm just going to, there are 4 of these large sheets, with each one having a large, one of the islands, Hawaii and, Maui, etc. And then there's various, it looks like, like outrigger canoes. There are number valued ones. This is the chapter tracker, like keep a track of which chapter that you're in. So this is what the piece. There's 4 of these large size ones and 1 kind of like half size one. So there's 5 different large island hexagons, and then all these different stuff there. So this is quite a substantial game compared to many of these other old, smaller ones. You know, fair number of components. There's also dice, 5, 6-sided dice, and a 4-sided die. So that doesn't. There, it's this way. Dice. I think I already tucked the rule book underneath there. So that's Aloha, the Spirit of Hawaii, again by Norv and Brad Brooks. Again, these are all Blue Panther published back in, you know, the early 2000s and into the 20-teens. Here's another one. It's relatively hefty. One of these standard size books, Rasputin. It also has a fair number of components, not quite as much as this one. If you're getting made in the USA, 2 to 4 players, 13 plus. All right. This has wooden pieces also. Again, so far the theme has been wooden pieces. Steve Jones was the woodworker, the game of wood guy. All right, so this has another more traditional style fold out, stapled in the middle rule book with color, etc. Little more readable because it's a standard font. This mottled gray and the black writing, you know, I can read it, but it could be easier. This is relatively good to read. So this is a little better crafted font-wise and stuff. And again, tons of cards. Now, it's probably about, this one might have a little more cards than the one, but the other one had more overall wooden pieces. All right, now, unfortunately, some of these wooden pieces are coming out. You can see there that these are laser cut and they just like coming right out of the thing. This is one of those 4-piece puzzle boards, and you gotta get it right, the right one where, okay, so this is correct, because so that the 3, and it's kind of a 4-pointed star. See, that's the one of 4, so that should be there. You see, you can figure it out which one connects. It's not super obviously going to pay attention to those. You have the wrong lines, and so it's kind of like a maze. It's more like a palace, and people are going out trying to assassinate Rasputin. If you know the story of Rasputin the Mad Monk, and you know, supposedly he was shot numerous times and dove out the castle or the palace window or whatever, and he survived. And some legends, he's still alive. Okay, it's because these fall out, I'm just going to tip this up. So there's these standees. Okay, so you have the base and those, and then these are there's a round marker. There's like one square with a cross mark for each, and then these are like explosions or whatnot. I'm not sure exactly. You know, trap markers or something. Again, that likes to fall out. So wood stuff. Now these I think are the assassins, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've got a numbered base that goes with each particular assassin, so you can keep the numbers consistent between the bases and that. And then so those are like the players and the generic guards or assassins or whatnot. I'm not sure. Obviously I haven't played it yet. So many games, so little time, hard to get to everything. So that is Rasputin. I've got one more game here to show you. And this one here, let me get these out of the way though. Still, is that gonna fit? There, best I can. This one was actually available on the Blue Panther website as late as 2023. This had a first edition. Well, it was first F.M. Smith created this game, and he hand created boards himself. And then Blue Panther came out with its first edition, and they had a wooden board, but not quite as fancy as the original designer. And then they had a second edition with a slightly different wood board, different color, more like an Irish theme instead of a Britain pub theme. And then this later one now no longer has a wood board. We'll show you, if some of you can guess, what is one of the things that Blue Panther is now famous for in many of its games. Yes, if you said canvas maps, you are correct. This one has a canvas map. So this third edition, the first Blue Panther edition had this same kind of box, the tan one, but it didn't say third edition here. And then there was the second edition that was both in the black and red box for the British theme and the black and green box for the Irish theme. So here's the rules. Here's the very few pieces. There's 6 discs. There's 2 dice. Now, in the wooden board ones, there was 2 pegs because you'd have scoring pegs, holes running around the side that you'd peg. This version says it's supposed to have player markers, player discs that would track your score. They're not in here. They weren't included. They're not pictured here either. Now the dice, they're a different color. These were black and red dice. It's almost like here, those dice were, from like leftovers from the Irish set, and the black and red is leftover from the British set. So you get what you get, but this is the version that, again, it's not available on the website anymore, but this is something that all of these you might be able to find out there if you hunt on BGG or on eBay. I'm going to zoom out a little more here so you can see this map better. All right. And one of the things about this game is these rules were written for when it was a wooden board. Okay. It says down there, copyright 2019. The first Blue Panther version, I can't remember if it was like 2011 or something, 2014. And I think about 2014, and the second one was 2019, and then this version is 2023. But so there's no pegs, and it needs to be, so you could use a penny or a dime or something to keep track, around the outside, or just some other die 6 or something just to keep track. But they talk in the rules about when you roll double monkeys, you put something on the crown. Well, that's the crown, obviously, but on this chart they call it the crest. And then there's it's heraldry. It's thing. And so you've got this is the mantle, this is the outside, and this part here, this is called the bend, and this is the field. So there's this background part, which is cut in two because the bend comes across, and there's 3 cocks, 2 bulls, and 1 monkey, and basically you're rolling the dice and you're trying to score things. It's a competitive 2-player game. I'm not going to go into tons of details, but there's a lot of randomness, but there is some decision making, and that if you roll 1 monkey and one of the other ones, you have a choice of what you do. Otherwise, if you roll pairs, anything with non-monkeys, so pairs you score a certain way. The 1 bull, 1 cock you score a different way. It's not worth as much points, but you have some slight choice. So it's a little bit of strategy, a fair amount of luck, but there are people that really enjoy the game, and there's actually they have tournaments in the UK and stuff like that. So anyway, this is Cock and Bull 3rd edition. So this has been my strange little, I was hoping to get this in under 20 minutes. We're at 24, almost 25 minutes now. Like I said, I do have some more Blue Panther games tucked away somewhere, and a couple on order that are, again, these are all ones that are out of print, wooden pieces. Steve Jones' original focus and expertise was, laser cutting and laser etching and making games out of would. You can still get one of his like dice trays or dice towers or something on the website. They used to have a couple of varieties. Now they're down to just like one left or whatnot. So this has been a Meandering Mike Collector's Corner. Because again, we like to bring to you collections of games from publishers. Now, while this publisher slash print-on-demand printer, many of you know Blue Panther is a print-on-demand printer of games of other publishers, but they are doing more published games themselves currently in the last year and a half. But they used to be a publisher of a wide variety of games, like we've seen here. So we'll call it quits there. Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, and remember, take care of your games, and they will take care of you. And roll them dice and get some monkeys. Ciao, y'all.